Okay, let's take a look at UA.I.B.K4a. And this is the code that deals with allowing a person other than the remote pilot in command to manipulate the flight controls. Because now, while it may seem that I think the natural interpretation when someone hears about who is the remote pilot in command, you're also thinking that that's the pilot of the aircraft. And in fairness, most of the time that is going to be the case. However, they do not need to be the same person. The regulations do allow you to have someone who's flying, or as the FAA likes to put it, manipulating the flight controls, and have a separate person filling the role of remote pilot in command. So let's take a look at this and see what the FAA has in mind and how this can happen. So what we need to look at is FAR 107.12. And in this regulation, it states, no person may manipulate the flight controls of a small unmanned aircraft system unless that person is under the direct supervision of a remote pilot in command, and the remote pilot in command has the ability to immediately take direct control of the flight of the small unmanned aircraft. So that's how you can have that distinction. You can have someone who is nearby and not physically flying it, but they have to be in a position that they can take over from the person who is flying immediately. Now, the next question would be, so how exactly, what are the methods of compliance? How can you make this happen in a way that the FAA is going to be happy with? The first was actually pretty simple. The remote pilot in command can stand next to the person manipulating the controls. And just to give you an idea, this is actually something that in my company a number of years ago we did on a rather large event. Because, and I'll just tell you the background story so that we can kind of see one of the practical applications of this. There is a film company from Europe that needed to film a large event, and this was right around the time that Part 107 started coming into place. So the rules were just getting set up. Anyway, prior to that, they had no problem getting the authorization to come over here and operate. But now with the regulations in place, they were not given the authorization, and they're like, oh my goodness, what do we do? Now, that was how they then reached out to our company because, well, we were able to do this. But rather than us try and do the job when, they have the vision that they're looking for already in place, they have their camera crews, their personnel, their pilots that know what they want to do, and it's actually kind of difficult for them to try and explain exactly what it is that they're looking for us, having never worked with them before. So a very simple solution that was 100% legal was we went out there with them and literally stood next to their pilots as they flew. So this was legal because we filled the role of remote pilot in command. Our pilots were in a position that they could immediately take over the operation should they need to be, and as a result, then they could then do what they needed to do, capture the shots they needed to capture, and as I kind of knew what was going to happen because these were not rookies, they were professionals. They did the flight just fine. They captured the video they needed. Our job was actually pretty simple, just to stand there next to them, but it allowed us to help them get what they needed, and it was a big win for everybody. So that's just a practical example of how you might do this. This also could come up probably for more commonly if you're training somebody and say they're out doing their initial shoots. Say you've hired a new pilot for your business, and so you're teaching them what they need to know. A way that you can that you can have them fly while you are still the remote pilot in command is you stand right next to them. So if you have to, you can physically take over the operation. Okay, so that's probably the simplest way of doing it, but there are other methods that the FAA has indicated are acceptable to meet this compliance. The next one will be a buddy box. It's just, again, something that you can switch the controller over from theirs to yours. And then finally, an autonomous system allowing the remote pilot in command to immediately place the aircraft into a safe mode, such as a hover pattern or hover or holding pattern, or a return to home. So any one of those are considered acceptable by the FAA for so the remote pilot in command and the person manipulating the controls can be different.